So, good morning. A new week is underway. For some people, it's the second day of the week. If the week starts on Sunday as the first day of the week, which actually it does for us Christians liturgically. Yesterday was the 18th Sunday of the year, and we're in the 18th week. So I hadn't noticed that fact, at least reflected on it, that our liturgical week actually continues the biblical pattern, obviously because of the resurrection, the first day of the week. And we continue using that. That's interesting. Most people would think the week starts on Monday and Sunday is the weekend. But actually Sunday is the week beginning for us from a Christian perspective, from a liturgical perspective. It means that our outlook on life no longer starts, let's say, absolutely with the let's say physical creation of the world, but actually starts with, that's also included and subsumed, it's taken up into this vision, but it actually starts with the view from the resurrection point of view. So when we visit hospital and somebody is there recovering from illness, we're going in as resurrection people. That's for us who are Christians. That's the framework of our world view. The new creation. It's interesting. I need to talk about this with a few people who know their academic stuff better than I do. These reeds are coming back again. They're all growing straight up to heaven. We have an interesting story today about a false prophet. And many times there are false prophets. It's a human phenomenon, presenting a scenario that actually doesn't correspond to the truth of the events and the prognosis, what's going to happen. And that's a very intense conversation today, involving Jeremiah. And it's a concrete moment in the history of the people, a moment also of great tension and difficulty. And you have false prophets. And it must be tough enough to face reality. It is tough enough to face reality, as cruel as sometimes it strikes us. But if there are false prophets on top of that, then that makes the situation actually worse, because it raises false hopes that are surely going to be dashed. And today Jesus asked the disciples, where are we going to get enough food for this multitude? And the gospel also says that he's doing this to test them in the account of John's gospel. And today we're reading from Matthew. And so it's interesting, that aspect of life. A lot of life is a test for us, where our nerves are settled and sure. Our view of reality and what it's based. And even though they offer just A handful, Jesus said, well, have the crowd sit down, have them recline. We had this gospel in John's gospel a week ago on Sunday, a Sunday week. Now we have it again today. The same basic story. It's in all the gospels. So obviously it was a very strong part of the narrative all over the church, this miracle. There are quite a few features in this account that are striking for us. I love the way the light's coming down there right now. Just zoom in a little for you. It's amazing from behind the darkness, so much light's coming down. But there's a reason for that, obviously. There are a number of words that are used in sequence here. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, looking up to heaven, he said the blessing, he broke the loaves and gave them to the disciples. All of those words are retained for us in the Eucharistic prayer in every Mass. So we have a daily remembrance of those for those who go to daily Mass, a weekly remembrance of those for the Sunday Mass goers. So it's interesting that these words are exactly so repeated. And maybe before going to that part, what's interesting is to think about the attitude of the heart and the soul that had this custom, which was thoroughly Jewish practice. I'm not familiar if it is also in other communities, but this was the way the Jewish people still, pious Jewish people still have their meals. To Seder, for example, at the Shabbat, and the father takes the bread, and the first thing is to give a blessing. Blessed are you, Lord, God of all creation. Through your goodness, we have this bread to offer. This is the way we say it in our prayer. Basically, that reflects the same substance the Jewish person will say in the family. To start at every meal giving praise, even if the meal is scanty, even if there are sufferings, to be able to give blessing, like Job. Job is a great case, a great example of speaking blessing from the heart, always. Obviously, it's easier to give blessing and praise to God when everything is nice and pleasant, but to be able to give blessing to God when things are rough. In every circumstance, there's blessing, because we're alive. The question first isn't how are you? The question is in our hearts, I'm so happy, and I thank and I bless God that you're here and you're alive. And many people, when they hear the news, the sad news of, let's say, even somebody so close like a parent passing, the thought of gratitude and giving thanks for a life lived is also present. It can be present when we're sick, to be thankful for life and to give blessing. Anytime we touch something, we take something, we see something, we hear something, in our hearts to have that basic attitude of blessing. It's very healthy for the human being. You have a new car, new house, blessing. To give thanks, graduation, have a blessing. A new day, utter a blessing. Well, in a little over an hour, we're going to be headed over there where those sunrays are coming down to visit the site of Bethsaida with the theology students from Rome and the house of Peter, the chief of the apostles. That's what's on the medallion from the Byzantine period that was found. And we're going to be blessed with one of a leading Galilean archaeologist who led that dig, has since retired from teaching at Kinnaird College, and looking forward very much to that visit this morning. I think they were doing some excavations the last few weeks, so looking forward to see if there's anything new, what's the latest. And I want to sign off now because the morning is very tight for me. So I wish you many blessings today, and that today be a day when you give thanks and blessing, whatever circumstances you're in. Practice that. It's a great way to live. It's a great way to be. A great way to relate to reality, and to others, and especially to the giver of all the gifts. God bless you. See you later, alligators. The clouds are my hat this morning.